Welcome to the MVP show. Today we're speaking with Colin Vermander, all the way from Canada. We talk about his origin story, his background, whether it be an ADX studio, ADOXIO, and of course now KPMG, and kind of the value he's got from the MVP program. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/173. Now let's get on with the show. Hey Colin, welcome to the MVP show.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, so tell us a bit about where you are. Like, where do you live, work, and play?
So I am now in Gatineau, Quebec in Canada. I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, but recently moved over to our Francophone side, or our Francophone province, about a year ago.
So do you speak French, or is it not a non-French speaking area?
No, it is a very French-speaking area, and my French is terrible. I barely passed French in grade 9, and then once I was done the requisite education in French, I kind of bailed on it as quickly as possible because it was not a favorite subject of mine. So no, my French is really bad.
So then, like in everyday societal type life, does that cause, like, whether you're at the supermarket or, getting fish and chips or something like that, how does that affect you? Or is English still common enough?
English is still common enough. The de facto here, though, is to start out in French with most places that you go. And like if you go to a restaurant or something, you're going to have a French menu. You can ask for an English one usually. I'm getting better and better with being able to understand what people are saying or getting the gist of it mostly. So speaking it though is not my forte probably. So, but yeah, it's most people here will switch pretty quickly. So it's not troublesome or anything like that.
So what's your origin story?
My origin story, like how far back, like do you want to go?
Well, was it 2.4 billion years? Like, we could go back to there if you want. I'm just reading a Stephen Hawking's book at the moment, and so yeah, we can go back that far if you want, but maybe not. Maybe not. When do you feel comfortable telling your professional journey to this point?
Sure, I guess so. I mean, I can start from high school. I finished high school and didn't really feel like I wanted to go to university or college at the time. So I kind of just went into working right away. And I actually went into kind of like a network administration, network infrastructure side of things. And I guess it was around like the millennial type of time. So it was the Y2K stuff was really big. It was doing lots of Exchange server, SharePoint server, Windows server type of installations and management of all of those. And then I kind of dabbled in some programming, or got the opportunity to dabble in some programming when I was doing that, and built a couple of web applications and really, really liked doing that. So I guess it was about 8, 9 years after that, I decided to go back to school and went to a college program for computer programming. And it was really to get like my paperwork, so to speak. I had kind of self-taught myself a lot of things in those 8 or 9 years already, but didn't really have like the paperwork to back it up. And kind of did a 3-year program in about 2 years, kind of accelerated, and came out with a diploma from there. And in my, I guess my second last year, my last year, I got a summer job in one of the semesters I had off with ADX Studio. So they hired me as a developer, and for I guess about 3 months, and then they ended up keeping me on part-time for the rest of the school year while I finished, with the agreement that I would come and work full-time for them once I was done school. So, and this was kind of around the time that ADX Studio was opening up their additional practices or areas, because they had really, ADX Studio started in Regina, Saskatchewan, and that's where the bulk of people were, but they were starting to build offices in the Toronto area and the Calgary area, kind of trying to expand out across Canada. So I was one of their first employees in the Toronto area as
Okay,
part of that.
okay.
So.
So this is in the 2 years I've been podcasting. This is a discussion I've never actually had, and now that I've got somebody so on the ground floor about it, tell us a bit about ADX. Like back in the day, like how big a company was it? Like from my point of view, I knew Shan because he was an MVP, and as far as ADX was concerned, it was only Shan, right? Because he's the only person I engaged with, and I mean, yeah, I saw a few other people at trade shows and things like that, but really it was Shan was the spokesperson in my world. Tell me about how big was the company, how many locations, what was its core business model, that type of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, ADX Studio started as another company before that called App Depot, but the company was founded by three guys, all in Regina, Saskatchewan, and Shan would be one of those three. There was also Doug and Dennis, and they each kind of brought their own skills. Shan was obviously the highly technical guy, and Dennis was kind of more the project services delivery type of guy, and Doug was the business guy. So the three of them together kind of like formed or had all of the parts put together between them. And I guess when I joined, there was probably about, I want to say, around 30 people, maybe a little bit more. And by that time, it had already broken into this product and services delivery type of team. So there was a product team that built the ADX Studio portal product of about 4 or 5 guys plus Shan. And then there was about another 20 to 25 services type of people. And that was a mix of like developers and business analysts and project managers. So,
And so would they kind of fit your typical model of a Microsoft Dynamics practice back in the day that basically took on project work for customers and implemented Dynamics and other services?
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing that actually held ADX Studio up for a long time was their services business. The product was not a profitable business at first. Service kind of funded the product development for a long time, but the thing that kind of funded services was our unique value proposition in that we had this portal product. So we were the external facing Dynamics people type of thing. So we often got put into opportunities that involved the portal, but we did everything. Like we did full Dynamics implementations with or without the portal. So
Yeah. And where was most of the business coming from back in those days before the portals took off? Where was most, was it like we were serving mainly public sector, non for profit, professional services? What type of industries were you getting most of your work from?
it was a pretty good mix of everything. There was definitely a lot of public sector opportunities, a lot of private. We did a lot of retail-based businesses that were spinning up loyalty reward programs at the time. I worked on a couple of those. Definitely some government-based items as well. We were also opening up a Calgary office in the oil and gas industry. Is obviously really big there. So we were starting to get into oil and gas type company opportunities. So it kind of ranged all over the place. But the other thing was is that ADX Studio also kind of had a partner model. So people would resell the ADX Studio product across the world or be an ADX Studio partner and resell it and then look for help on implementation. So it wasn't just Canada that we would service. We would often be training and engaging in other opportunities across the globe type of thing. So it was a lot of cool opportunity in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so who was really doing the selling?
It was so we probably had like 2 or 3 like de facto sales guys, but if you were not delivering on a project, you were often engaged in the sales cycle as well. kind of ensuring that you could help yourself be billable in the end, type of thing. So that standard type of model. We switched as we got busier and busier, though. We switched to more of a sales group model. So actually having a full-on sales team, because there wasn't the availability of delivery people to be able to actually sell at the same time. So
Interesting. So, of what you can say, in other words, not what's covered by non-disclosure agreements, things like that, what was the pathway then into the company being split and, Microsoft taking, of course, or purchasing the IP, I suppose, around ADX portals, and then the services business carrying on?
yeah, so Microsoft was very interested in the portal product and including it with them, and that's I think what they took was basically the IP. And the people on the services side got spun off into this company called ADOXIO, again with the same three founders. So Shan, Doug, and Dennis kind of ensured that everybody can kind of had a job and would continue on from that. As part of the product moving to Microsoft, some of the product team members moved to Microsoft, but not all of them. Some of them were on temporary contract with Microsoft and then came back to Adoxio. So yeah, so Craig Fleming was the product manager and kind of helped with the transition to Microsoft, but then it ended up coming back to Adoxio as our CTO.
Gotcha. And where did these names come from? ADX Studio, and then the other one being Adoxio.
So ADX Studio, I don't exactly know the full history of how that name got picked, but Adoxio, what was desired was keeping something close to the ADX name, like having some sort of semblance of these two things kind of go together. And it actually was, I think, a random word that was come up with that had a free domain name. So that's
So it
how
sounds very
Adoxio.
unicornish in nature,
Yes.
which allows us, of course, to move on to another topic, which is unicorns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So why are unicorns featuring in your life so much?
They did feature for a good like 2 or 3 year periods. That kind of started, I guess I want to say at Ignite 2016. I went down to Ignite with a colleague, and we went to this really great party that was at this arcade or something like that, and won a whole bunch of tickets and ended up walking away with a bunch of unicorn stuffies. Um, and one of our other colleagues was supposed to join us, but did not end up joining us because he forgot to purchase his Ignite tickets too late. So we kind of used one of the unicorn stuffies as if he was there with us and kind of documented all the shenanigans that a unicorn could kind of get into. So we were doing selfies and had a hashtag on Twitter and everything, and it kind of just took off from there. And um, yeah, and then it kind of persisted, and we just kind of dropped it in on everything that we were doing as like code names on projects, and would put it in code files behind. I can tell you, like, our CEO was not the happiest at the time that we were doing that. So, um, and yeah, it was became a lot of fun. So
And so do you have a unicorn suit?
I do have a unicorn onesie that I have used on various occasions. Yes, Halloween being one of those. Very convenient to hop into as a quick costume. So, but yeah, I used it on a bunch of occasions actually. So
Interesting. And so, but no public prime time for the last little bit then for the unicorn.
no, the last time the unicorn got out was for my very official KPMG photo. So we.
Right. And I think that's the one that I probably am referring to or thinking about. So, I can't imagine, the blue KPMG logo with a unicorn moniker on it. So, how did that all go down?
Well, so when we ADOXIO got acquired by KPMG, it was really a clash of cultures of this old organization. Uh, Hold on, sorry, I've just lost my computer screen here. This older organization that was not used to like what we had as ADOXIO of this like startup culture. And so we had to go in and get our photos taken for our security passes and everything like that. And so we decided we'd have some fun and kind of shake it up with our fun attitude, and went in to get our photos taken in unicorn onesies. So we got our photos taken in unicorn onesies and had official, more regular photos taken after we took the onesies off. But yeah, no, we had a lot of fun, and the people at the KPMG office thought we were cute and fun as well. So
Oh wow, okay, so you didn't rub anybody up the wrong way by doing that then.
no, no, not really. No, I think like they knew who we were, and I thought they think it was good fun at the same time as well. So they will always remember it, and they always remember who we are. So yeah.
I noticed on your LinkedIn profile there's no mention in your experience of working for KPMG. Your last experience is 4 years, 3 months at ADOXIO, but nothing.
Yeah, I think, well, so when we got acquired, we became what was called KPMG ADOXIO. And that was kind of the practice. I think I'm still associated probably with ADOXIO, which I think has been renamed KPMG ADOXIO. So yeah,
Yep,
I just haven't.
I just jumped into it, and I can see the logo says KPMG ADOXIO, but yeah, just okay. So interesting,
So
interesting.
yeah, the ADOXIO name's kind of fading away over the acquisition and everything like that. Like we are a part of KPMG's Microsoft practice in Canada, which does a lot more things than just Dynamics. They have a whole modern workplace team as well. So
Interesting. And so, where do does the KPMG there integrate or work a lot with other KPMGs around the world? Like, because I know KPMG has practices, and I think it's called Crimson Tide or Crimson Wing in the UK. I know it's in Australia. It's here in New Zealand. They've all got Dynamics practices. How much are you integrated with them all and sharing your knowledge and bits and pieces?
quite a bit, actually. They were very keen when we joined. We were about a 80, 90 person company when we joined KPMG Canada, and there was this big breath of air coming in from a dynamics perspective. So they were all very interested, and we had some vertical products that we had as a Doxio that became KPMG IP as well. So they had this ability to now sell IP, which is really something very new for KPMG of selling ISV or packaged products instead of just managed services consulting type of stuff. So they have been very interested, and we work on a regular basis with the U.S. firm. Like we have a when we were at Doxio, we had a number of projects because we were a global company. So when we got acquired, we had to send all of our US business to the KPMG US team. But they didn't have the resources to really execute on all of that. So they contracted us to do a lot of it. And that kind of continues. Yeah. Um, and then Australia and some of the Asian KPMG firms are quite interested in and kind of partnering with them and getting them aware and skilled up with all of our kind of abilities and products that we have. So they're all very interested. Um, I had some discussions with the Crimson Wing team. I can't remember. They've rebranded themselves something else other than Crimson Wing. I can't remember what it
Oh, is
is.
that right? So
Uh,
they haven't taken the full KPMG moniker.
they are more, yeah, no, they are now, I think, fully under the KPMG branding, because before they were just still sticking out as Crimson Wing, kind of like just how ADOXIO was KPMG ADOXIO, they were KPMG Crimson Wing. But I think they have adopted the brand entirely, but they have like a sub practice name, but I can't quite remember what it is. So
What's your thoughts on being an MVP?
um It's good. I think it's great to be able to interact with the product team on a regular basis and get the information from them. It's great to be able to be known as kind of a resource in the community. I'm going to say for certain knowledge areas, not all of the knowledge areas that people might expect. Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. It continues to be a challenge. I think I kind of had worked to challenge myself, and I think a lot of the work I had done to challenge myself ended up being community-based items, and sharing and teaching knowledge was one of the things that I kind of enjoyed, and I think it was just MVP kind of became a byproduct of doing a lot of that. So I was moving up in the ADOXIO ADX Studio world stopped me from doing a lot of the things that I really liked and loved doing, which was a lot of development and programming. So I kind of took to doing that in my after hours and took on some personal projects and stuff. And that I think the kind of the byproduct was educating people on what I had done, and then the byproduct of all of that became kind of getting awarded the MVP. So
I like it. I like it. So, as we head into 2020, what do you think you will be doing in regards to being an MVP?
So I was kind of, because I was probably the first person, I guess, with a lot of Portal knowledge after Nick Dolman. I always was kind of known as one of the Portal MVPs. I've been kind of trying to expand my knowledge set more beyond portals and more into the ALM DevOps world. So I've been trying to take that as a lot of my focus. Um, One of the reasons I've ended up here in Gatineau, Quebec, is actually because of a woman I'm seeing who has two children. And I really enjoyed living and being with them, and kind of educating them on things and finding out what they're learning at school, and their access to technology and stuff. So trying to find ways, and I think there's a lot of cool ways that you could do it now, because we were just playing with like a bot with the power of virtual agents, and like that is so like easy to teach kids. Like they get it
Totally right.
right away. Like they're like, oh, this is the coolest thing, click and drag this here, that there. Like it's, yeah. So seeing if I can find ways to bring that down to younger minds and stuff. So still trying to keep my really technical focus, but kind of expanding based upon my personal lifestyle changes that
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
experienced as well. So
makes sense. It makes sense. And when you say on the portal side you're expanding, you've got into ALM. That was one of the other things that what is it? It would have been about 6-7 years ago, before Shan joined Microsoft. That was his kind of the other thing he was very well known for, right? He was very well known, of course, for his representation of ADX portals, but the other side was he had the most advanced of anything I've seen in the world ALM process back then, right? It was very sophisticated way of managing solution files, deconstructing them from an automated or a coded level, and then rebuilding, turning them back into solution packages for deployment into Dynamics environments. And then he joined Microsoft, and that wasn't his focus, of course, was very much the portals and not necessarily that ALM. But I feel that ALM stuff was some of the gold that he had, and I think we're starting to see more of it come to bear now in more recent times. But I think you're in a wide open landscape there to really do a lot with that whole ALM story, because so many people, even partners, have no idea to run, a sophisticated ALM process over project work.
yeah, no, definitely. I think like I started the ALM stuff probably about a year and a half ago and would not have very many people at sessions, but now like the rooms are packed with people. I think I was just at UG Summit down in Orlando in October, and like there was only people standing and no chairs available type of thing for some of the sessions on ALM. So the interest is high, and I think the interest is really high from Microsoft. Shan's now, I think, working in the solutions area. He has nothing to do with portals anymore. And yeah, that's definitely an area of interest for him. But I think the community as a whole, it's kind of taken off as something that's is very interesting. I mean, the whole DevOps movement have really taken off as well. Like if you look outside of Dynamics or the Microsoft bubble, like DevOps is definitely a huge skill set, a good feather in your cap to kind of have. So yeah, it's very interesting, and there's definitely a lot of problems to solve. The portal projects particularly are really complex because it's not just solutions, it's also the data that makes up a portal. So the ALM story is super important.
Colin, we've already exhausted our time. It's gone so quickly, but before we wrap, are you ready for your 6 random questions?
Sure.
Okay, here's number 1. What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you during a date?
I want to say smelling my armpits and being like, oops, I forgot to put deodorant on to this date, and then walking around and being like, oh God, I can't lift my arms at all. So that's the only thing that comes to mind right away.
Man, I identify with that, and I bet you many others will as well.
I think as soon as you realize that, though, you're going to sweat more.
I know, right? I know, totally. Have you been told you look like someone famous, and if so, who?
Yes, Van Gogh on the Toronto subway, because I have a red beard and brown hair.
Yeah, I can see it actually. Totally right. Yeah.
Yeah.
On point. Would you rather always have gas or always have bad breath?
I'm thinking bad breath.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Seems more curable.
In what way do you feel your childhood was happier than most other people?
I don't know. My parents always gave awesome opportunities in sort of traveling and trying new things. I think, yeah, like looking back, a lot of my friends didn't get to travel as much when I was younger. My parents always instead of to save money, my parents would pull us out in April instead of the standard March break when rates to travel were a lot less. And that was kind of put first, and they would school us for the 2 or 3 weeks that we were away in April. And so, yeah, I feel like I got lots of opportunity in that. And I think lots of leniency as well from them when I didn't go to college or university after high school right away. So
that's very cool. That's very cool. If you could only drink one type of alcohol for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
It used to be Scotch, but now it's beer.
I was going to say, man, it should be Fireball, right? Good Canadian fake whiskey.
Yeah, no, definitely not Fireball. My former CEO is listening. It's Scotch, but it's really beer. IPAs in Canada here are my go-to.
What's one accomplishment you are most proud of?
Well, the MVP is definitely up there. I think, I don't know, probably just making my parents proud and kind of turning out as something that they're happy with. I think there was a little bit when I didn't go to university or college, I got a job. And I think they are very proud of me now in terms of what I do and where I've made it to, and my personal relationships and everything. So I turned out all right.
All right, mate, that's awesome. Before you go, if people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
LinkedIn's a great place. I'm the only Colin Vermander out there. Got a unique last name, so pretty easy to find that way. And then on Twitter, KOOLIN and an underscore at the end. And then there's always my blog, just colinvermander.com, and you can find all the methods to get me on there.
Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I'd love it if you could leave me a review. If you can do that on iTunes, if you've heard me say this a few times, you're the person I'm talking about right now that's going, you know what, I've not done that yet. So can you go to iTunes, either go to nz365guy.com/iTunes, leave me a review. That would be fantastic. I kind of want to show up on the iTunes platform. So I'd really appreciate if you could do that. nz365guy.com/iTunes. It'll auto redirect you to the right place on the iTunes platform. Full show notes for this episode, please visit nz365guy.com/173. And like always, I'll see you next Thursday.